For centuries, Europe drained its wetlands for farmland and cities. It seemed like progress, but drained wetlands don't just vanish. They release centuries of stored carbon back into the air, turning one of the planet's biggest carbon stores into a climate change booster.
Peatlands store significantly more carbon than all of the forests of Europe. And they're important for biodiversity, for flood risk alleviation, water quality. We depend on peatlands, and yet they have been left behind.
Today, less than 20% of these vital ecosystems in Europe remain intact. The solution, in principle, is simple: put the water back. When you raise the water table high enough, a peat bog stops reacting with oxygen and stops releasing carbon dioxide.
Ein trockenes Moor.
A dry bog releases CO2, and a rewetted bog under the perfect hydrological conditions can even become a CO2 sink.
Today, the negative impacts of draining peatlands have been recognised, leading to a shift in thinking. In April 2026, the German Ministry for the Environment unveiled a funding programme to restore German wetlands. The aim? Rewetting 90,000 hectares while enabling sustainable agriculture and forestry use. A rewetting project that is already underway is situated in northern Germany.
Hier befinden wir uns am Standort Jordanshof.
We are here at the Jordanshof site, which forms part of the Fenemore wetland. It is an ancient raised bog cultural landscape, but it was drained for agricultural use and industrial peat extraction. We will start a rewetting project here on this beautiful 96-hectare site.
Schönen 96 Hektar Standort, eine Wiedervernässung starten.
But how can decision makers across the European Union, from policymakers to local landowners, find out if and how they would benefit from rewetting a wetland or a peatland? It's a complex puzzle. Therefore, researchers in the European project Wet Horizons developed tools to guide the protection and restoration of wetlands.
Wet Horizons will help decision makers directly to tell them if they do the restoration compared to not do anything, and how much emissions they can reduce, how much biodiversity they can bring back, and how that could be accepted by the citizens and by the society, and how to drive that change from governance.
The tools developed in the project are based on a first-of-its-kind database that the researchers built.
So the Wet Horizons app takes data from the project and it shows them in a map form in such a way that people, any end user, whether it's a local user or a governmental user, can interactively look at the data that we have produced and can assess whether prioritising biodiversity results in a different spatial outcome. And the intention really was to combine all the knowledge into one place and allow people to play, to see which, if they wanted to make a decision that could lead to rewetting, whether it would benefit biodiversity or change the financial equation or the carbon benefits of a certain decision.
For some landowners, carbon credits or other benefits are the deciding factor in whether they stick to traditional farming or switch to rewetting.
Also tatsächlich haben wir hier einen Landwirt, der...
In fact, we have a farmer here who is innovative, who wants to get stuck in, and who says, okay, I see climate protection and nature conservation as a major opportunity to move forward with a business model based on contribution claims in the voluntary carbon credit sector.
Carbon Credits, da hier als Geschäftsmodell nach vorne zu gehen. Ein Landwirt, der sagt so, ja.
A farmer who says, well, why should I give up farming? I've got a great farm and so on. He might only start thinking about it when he sees there is also a business case for climate action. So that is certainly encouraging as well.
Auch eine Ermutigung.
For industry also, a financial incentive is increasingly recognised.
There is a real attention now in the business world to setting and meeting these emission reduction targets. So the priority has to be decarbonising our supply chains and reducing the amount of emissions that come from food production, manufacturing, all of those kinds of things.
Decision makers can benefit from the Wet Horizons by using the tools we have been developing. So in practice, they could be out there in the field, grab their mobile phone and use the app and produce different scenarios. What would happen to their piece of land and what would be the cost for doing the rewetting, what would be the benefits associated with it.
In the end, rewetting doesn't just benefit the wetland itself. Done well, it pays several groups at once.
Wetlands, salt marsh and inland can work as buffers, can help regulate flows and reduce flood risk. These are ecosystems now that are wet enough to maintain enough places for nature to survive through the drought. This is a way of helping us to survive through climate change as well as to mitigate climate change. And that matters for people, for you and I, for the drinking water that comes out of our taps. But of course, it also matters for our economies as we're able to continue producing food, enabling our supply chains to not be disrupted by climate change.
The choice ahead isn't really about technology. Rewetting is well understood. What's missing is scale and the will to fund it.
I think we stand at a major crossroads right now in terms of what we do to save these precious habitats and the future of our societies, given how critical nature is to climate mitigation and the survival of our way of life. My hope is that whether we prioritise public funding or private finance, we will find a way to come together to prioritise these habitats enough and to fund them sufficiently so that we can protect them, build them back, and enable them to protect us.
Rewetting our wetlands is no longer a leap into the unknown. It is a calculated, data-driven pathway to a resilient future.